Welcome back to the WinCams channel. Today we are going to talk about fuel Cardlock import. So in WinCams you can manually enter fuel. Of course, this is fuel usage, so telling us which vehicles received fuel and consumed fuel. And we assume that it's consumed when it goes into the vehicle and it's not going to come back out. So you can do that manually, of course, in the fuel data entry program here. You can just enter records and say which vehicle used fuel and what odometer reading it was at, and et cetera, et cetera. Fuel can come from an outside source, like a credit card, or maybe you just have a fuel vendor or Pacific Pride or something like that. Or it can come from your own inventory, and that's if you want to control the pricing, or if you buy in bulk thousands of gallons and then fuel from your own tanks. So that is manual fuel entry, and I'll talk about that more in a second. What many of our clients do is they get a file from their fuel provider, whether it's actually selling them the fuel or it's just managing the output from the tanks that that contain fuel they've already purchased. And what this file allows them to do is enter hundreds or thousands of records very quickly and 100% accurately, and that is called fuel Cardlock. So the first step is with your fuel Cardlock program, or somehow you got to get the file. Okay, so that some people have that file emailed to them as part of the invoice that they get from their fuel Cardlock company, or others have that file. They can pull their Cardlock pumps and receive a file or multiple files from their vendor. So let's see here. I guess I need to start fuel Cardlock. So fuel Cardlock is located under the transactions tab. We do have to set it up for each client because we have to understand the way your file is going to be formatted. And so we worked with lots of different companies, from Petrovend to Gasboy to Fuelmaster. This particular client has 3: Coleman Oil, Co Energy, and Blue Star Propane. And so they tell us what their file looks like, and then they can pick their layout. But we have to set that up for you. So I'm going to be importing from a file that's in the Co Energy format, which is apparently some company in Washington that provides fuel. So the first thing you do in the fuel Cardlock is you browse to the file that you want. So I have put this file on my desktop and named it test. One thing, they oftentimes come in as comma separated values or files that will open in Excel. You want to be careful about opening them in Excel and then saving them back, because Excel will potentially change some of the things or try to format them and help you, and then it might not work correctly. But as you can see in this grid here, we have lots and lots of fields representing just about every field we've ever seen in a Cardlock, and most people use less than half of those. So you browse to the file. Also, we'll have trouble opening the file if you already have it open in Excel as well. A lot of people open their file in Excel in order to look at it, but you don't want to save it back. So the first thing you do is you say, after browsing, you say import Cardlock data for a preview. Okay, so this is going to fill in the grid and validate things. So it imported a bunch of records, and it's telling me some things about them. We've got dates, we've got vehicle numbers, we've got odometers, and the main thing we want is the vehicle number, the quantity, the unit cost coming in, and the total charges. So there's lots of options here that we can customize or set for you. We've seen just about every variation of this. So in this case, you'll notice that the Cardlock file is coming in telling them the quantity and the unit cost, right? So in some cases it's $3.23, and in some cases it is $2.89. Okay, so in other cases, this is being purchased from, I presume, this Co-Energy company. In other cases, you may want to pull it out of your inventory and or set the cost of how you want it to go into, how you want to be charged to the vehicles manually. And you can do that in the translations tab, which we will talk about next. So there's two common things that we have to translate. One is the fuel type. So the Cardlock company tells us, hey, this is unleaded fuel. And then we may have to translate it to something so we can set a unit cost, so that we can reference the inventory master on the fuel record and draw down your quantity, etc. So what that would look like is, and we may need to help you with this, I happen to know that the Cardlock fuel type in a lot of these records is UNL. Okay, and there can be Cardlock locations too. This particular client does not have them. Does not have multiple pump locations. So then I pick that UNL refers to shop, and I do my lookup here, and I say it's, and I made one called UNL here. Okay, and you see that it comes in with $2.85, which is the price that I set for it. Okay, and that would be kept. That would correspond to the price that is calculated as an average cost by CAMS in your inventory. Okay, so then if you watch here and we go import again, remember all we've done is put it into the grid so far. So we import again, and now you can see that they are all going to location, or a lot of them are going to location 2, source shop, location 2, item number UNL. And you'll see that the unit cost is now standardized at $2.85. So that would be saying, I don't care what Co-Energy says they're selling it to us for. We're going to charge the vehicles as a cost $2.85 per. Okay. The second thing that we translate a lot or often is if the Cardlock company has a different vehicle number than WinCams has. Now, if that's true, my first recommendation is to ask why, but sometimes it's just the way it is, or the real vehicle number is in CAMS. If CAMS has an old vehicle number or something like that, then my recommendation is to go here in the vehicle and equipment module and do vehicle number change, which will allow you to change the numbers so that they are reflecting reality. But other times, there are Cardlock, just different Cardlock companies have different vehicle numbers that you may want to translate from. So if we see a 7 in the file, then we're going to translate it to this vehicle in CAMS. You can also use wildcards in here. We have some options to load a translation record for all CAMS vehicles. So that would mean if the Cardlock had a completely different numbering system and you wanted to set up a translation for every single vehicle in CAMS, you can use. So I have clients that they made all the sheriff's vehicles are not in CAMS for some reason, but they're coming in the Cardlock, and they all start with S. So they made a record in here that said S asterisk translates to, and then there's normally something that we usually it's NIC. So if you translate to NIC, that means not in CAMS, and then we will just ignore that record. Okay. But hopefully all your Cardlock vehicle numbers match your CAMS vehicle numbers. Okay, so now we look at what we've got here. This count is actually, I just noticed this, that it thinks it's an error, but it's not. It's putting in the wrong count. So on this error and warning message column is where it's going to tell us things, and the most common error or warning that we get is for odometer readings. And this can be really frustrating, and a lot of people sort of throw up their hands. I had one client say, can you stop bringing in the odometer readings because they are so bad coming from the Cardlock pumps, because people are out in the rain. A lot of odometers in vehicles these days are digital and the car's already turned off and they've walked around the car, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, clearly it's nice to get them to get good reads in with your card locks, and especially if you show the people out in the field that are fueling up that it actually matters and it affects PM services and it affects your data and somebody has to deal with it. That's great. We have some other options, and I can show you what to do when you do get a few of these. If you don't fix these or do something about them, you're going to have a problem, because you'll notice here that it says, warning, I'm posting 5,940 miles. My previous reading was 61,364. So that's a threshold that we can set. I believe the default is 5,000 miles. So we're just saying we haven't seen this odometer, or this vehicle. We haven't gotten an odometer reading either from a manual read or from a repair order or from fueling for over 5,000 miles. So maybe you were driving around for a long time. Maybe there's reasons for it, and that's fine. But maybe you want to take a look. Another warning here: fuel quantity is greater than the vehicle's capacity. Okay, so if I want to take a look at some of these, then I highlight the row that I want, right? And it's CS 2007 is the vehicle number. And then I'm going to hit Open Vehicle Master. And my Vehicle Master is going to open shortly. There we go. It's over here. Okay, so it took me to CS 2007. And you can see that my fuel capacity in the Vehicle Master is set to 12. And this record here represents 16.5 gallons. So something's got to give. Either this is an incorrect fuel capacity, or they put in the wrong vehicle number, or they fueled up a second vehicle without resetting the pump, or something has got to give. If you don't want to enter fuel capacities, that's fine. But if you do, then we're going to start checking them. And we might even have warnings for or errors for vehicles that we don't even recognize, and we of course can't bring those in. So, but the most common error is odometer warnings. So here it says, warning, this represents negative 27,106 miles. Okay, so the odometer that presumably the employee put in at the pump was 2803, and the previous read was 29909. So I'm going to open this Vehicle Master. Oops. Okay, and I'm going to go to the Operational tab, and you can see a nice history of the vehicle of the odometers here, and I have it set to show newest first. So these look really good. I can't say whether these are right, but they look good. They all flow in a reasonable manner, right? 25,000 through 29,000. They all seem reasonable to me. And this top one is from a repair order, so I really trust it, because it was a mechanic who was sitting with the car in the shop probably. So 2909, and the person put in 2803. So what are my options? In this case, I can't really say for sure what's going on. Maybe it was supposed to be, well, I could guess at it. I guess I have three options. Sometimes you can tell that a digit has been dropped. I can't tell that in this case, because even if I put a 0 on the end, it's still a little low. But maybe the date range makes it work. Other times you may want to call the driver if you have access to it, or if this vehicle is nearby, maybe somebody goes out and takes a look. Another thing you can do is you can just manipulate this grid before it comes in. And in fact, so you can clear this like that, or there's a eraser button here that will remove odometer values we don't like. I don't recommend this to be your go-to option, but sometimes if you think, well, it'll come out in the wash next time, I'll get a good odometer reading next time, or this is a rarity, or I don't have time, then you can just hit that button, and it will clear the bad odometer. 2 invalid odometer readings will be cleared in the grid before you bring them in. But then you get no odometer reading. Okay, which is fine if that's what you want. But many times, right? So here's another one for CS1632. CS-1632. Okay, so these are really consistent in the low 70s, right? So then somehow I got 135,000. So this is an interesting one. This looks like a real number. I see a lot of times when people get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 99999. This looks like a real number that somebody put in, and yet it is 60,000 miles higher than the previous read. So I'm starting to get nervous that this maybe was the wrong vehicle, or they borrowed their friend's fuel card, or I don't know what. Or but we need to figure out something, because you understand that if we bring this in and it fills in that 135,000 up here, then we're basically, these errors are going to compound in the future, because in the future now we've got a highest read of 135,000, and so even if it goes back to valid readings like 73,000 or 74,000, we're going to say it represents a bunch of negative miles. And so if you don't take care of these odometer reads and these issues each time, you will gradually grow until you have hundreds of errors. And I've seen that for sure, where people just get overwhelmed and they just accept terrible reads that they really don't want. And so I recommend that you fix these. Let's see, what other warnings?